Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Creeping In, a podcast where we cover true crime, horrors, and the mysterious. I am your host, Marissa Stevens. I am very, very, very excited for today's episode on the catacombs. I'm sure if you're here that you are very much into all things horrifying and have probably seen an extensive list of movies within the horror thriller genre. And when As Above, So Below came out in 2014, I was instantly obsessed. This was the first brush I had with the catacombs and what they exactly were, how insanely large and creepy that the entire network is. And I actually rewatched the movie about 3 months ago. I was browsing around looking for a good movie to watch, and I saw it. And I was like, since I haven't seen this in a while, let's watch it and see if it holds up to how good I remember it being. And I was very, very blown away. I forgot how well done it was. It's very entertaining, and I definitely was a bit nervous during a few scenes. So today I want to take a trip together down into the catacombs and see what is hiding below the surface of what is believed to be one of the most haunted locations worldwide. So let's get into it. Below the city of Paris, France, lies an extensive labyrinth of what is essentially a mass grave spanning 984,252 feet, or 300 kilometers. The catacombs were built in the late 1700s in order to deal with two issues that were extremely pressing at the time: the absolute overcrowding of cemeteries and major sinkholes and collapses within the city. There were so many dead and so little place to put them due to disease running rampant. It's important to remember how unsanitary and rough living conditions were at this period of time. Living situations tended to be poor and overcrowded. Sanitation was almost non existent, and antibiotics were still a far, far way away from being developed. At this point in time, there also wasn't even germ theory, so conditions were pitiful to say the least. This meant that the mortality rates were extremely high, and when you begin to run out of room to bury your dead, a new method of laying people to rest must be enacted. On top of that, the sinkholes were causing major issues within the infrastructure of the city. Building a city directly over old mining shafts was a recipe for disaster. A sinkhole, referred to as Rue de l'Enfer, which in English is the road to hell, swallowed up houses, carriages, and people who ultimately fell to their death. With more and more sinkholes opening up and causing destruction and panic, a solution needed to be reached sooner rather than later. At the time, people were buried in communal graves on church grounds where a body, or more commonly, bodies, would be added to the pile, time would pass to allow for decomposition, and then the grave would be up for use again. The decomposition process could take months or even years. With the population of the city growing and disease taking its toll, the living and the dead were in a battle for space within the city. Those living on the edge of Holy Innocents Cemetery, a burial ground that was used for over 500 years and was the largest burial ground in Paris, began to experience horrid symptoms such as becoming delirious, experiencing respiratory issues, as well as vomiting. The noxious fumes from Holy Innocents Cemetery had leached into the homes nearby, and the burial ground was closed down due to the dangers of these gases. The Paris Municipal Ossuary, the catacombs' official name, was cemented in 1786. Bodies were exhumed from the Holy Innocents Cemetery and moved to their new resting place in the catacombs. Within the catacombs, no class distinction takes place. Men, women, children, poor and rich are all intermingled in one large and expansive mass grave. The bones from over 6 million bodies are now littered underground, used to shape tunnels, archways, walls, even columns, reinforcing the infrastructure beneath Paris. It is very eerie to think about digging up the dead and moving them to another area, but things were definitely way different back then. And I guess this is what they saw as the only solution to the issues that they were facing at the time. I also read that they would do this at night to avoid unfavorable looks and opinions of those in the area, which I can't really blame them for. In 1809, the catacombs became open to the public, where visitors could observe, mourn, or even find entertainment while looking through the vast tunnel expanse. Of the 300 kilometers that are the catacombs, only 1.5 kilometers contains remains. The other areas of the tunnels were used for a multitude of reasons, including growing mushrooms, an area to take shelter during air raids, and even as a meeting spot for groups to hold satanic rituals. It has been illegal to enter the majority of the catacombs since the mid 1950s. There is a section 1.5 kilometers long that is considered the legal section of the catacombs, where you can go in and view the tunnels and bones within this small section. This area takes about 45 minutes to cover, has 131 steps down and 112 steps up. It is a one-way path, so you enter at one point and then you exit at another. Outside of this legal section is the remaining expanse of the catacombs, which are technically illegal to enter. There are people referred to as cataphiles, who are explorers that enter into the dark expanse and have a pretty good handle on the inner workings and geography within the tunnels. A branch of the Paris Police Department is dedicated to patrolling the catacombs to try and keep people from exploring these areas. These cataphiles mostly tend to be harmless, just people who take a liking to being in this underground world, some even choosing to stay down there for longer periods of time. Some, unfortunately, are not so harmless and are angry and hostile, especially towards those who appear to be tourists or filming within the tunnels. Some cataphiles will become guides, leading people who are serious about wanting to explore the tunnels, showing them around, and ensuring that the exploration is done safely. And I want to note that this is pretty impressive because the way through the tunnels is not a walk in the park. There's areas of water that is at a pretty cold temperature, considering we are underground there. And there's crawling through narrow passages, areas to fall multiple feet, and obviously millions of bones that surround you. Trespassers face risk of being fined if they are found in these illegal areas of the catacombs, but experienced cataphiles tend to know what time of day and which areas are best for entering and exiting. There is a regular group of cataphiles that are frequently down in the area, estimated to be about 100 people, and they hold to secrecy where these entrances are. This information is not to be shared with outsiders or tourists. The preservation of the tunnels is very important to this community, similar to how in the cave exploration community, being respectful of the place is very essential, and you don't really want to be disturbing or moving things within the tunnels. Although I will say there is a marked amount of graffiti within the tunnels, which is also very impressive. People describe entering the catacombs as a place that exists outside of the real world. When you go down below, time feels like it ceases to exist, and in a way, it does. There's no way to contact someone above the surface when you're within the tunnels. There's no cell reception, there's no lights except for what you're able to bring with you, whether it be like a headlamp or like a handheld flashlight. And there's also a feeling of complete disconnection. At certain points within the tunnels, you can hear the sounds of the city above, but there is no way for them to hear you. Over the years, many people have allowed their curiosity to take them down into the tunnels, only to never come back out. In 2017, two teenage boys, ages 16 and 17, were exploring the world beneath the city when they had become lost and unable to find their way out of the tunnels. The boys were stuck in the catacombs for 3 days, completely unprepared and terrified out of their minds. They were discovered using police dogs throughout a 4-hour search where they were extracted and taken to the hospital to be treated for hypothermia. The temperature beneath the surface can be quite brisk, around 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. These temperatures, without proper clothing and gear, would have been very difficult and dangerous to take on. Thankfully, these kids were located and able to be taken to safety without any other major injuries, although I can't imagine what type of emotional damage was inflicted on them by being lost for days on end in a tunnel like that in complete darkness. You would feel so helpless down there, and screaming or yelling out is only going to do nothing more than exhaust you or attract the attention of something unwanted. And you would have to choose between sitting down and hoping that help would make its way to you, or walking about and trying to find a way out. Either way, it's pretty terrifying to think about. Early on in the 1990s, a man was exploring the catacombs while recording on his camcorder. He was passing through the tunnels, caught up in his exploration, when suddenly he began running. As a matter of fact, sprinting through the tunnels, falling deeper and deeper into the catacombs, seeming to be chased by something or someone. Eventually, during his panic, he drops the camcorder and it lands with a thud on the ground, the angle showing just his feet as he disappears out of frame, still running. It's not known what happened to the man following this incident, and a body was never recovered, as well as nobody ever claiming ownership of the camcorder. But there was also no evidence of what had been chasing him. And I will say that I don't think that you would be running that maniacally unless you felt extremely threatened and like something really was chasing after you. So it could have been just a spirit, it could have been him freaking himself out in his head, but who's really to say? One of the more famous victims and now legends of the catacombs is named Philibert Aspar, a doorkeeper at a military hospital called the Val de Grace during the French Revolution. Also, forgive me for my French pronunciations because I have not touched a lick of French since middle school, so give me some grace here. Philibert disappeared in 1793 and wasn't discovered until 1804, 11 years later. The catacombs were sometimes used as a sort of storage cellar for alcohol because it was just the right temperature to keep it chilled because of the cool, consistent temperature down there. It's believed that he descended the stairs to retrieve some alcohol, but once he entered, his very, very unfortunate fate was sealed. This was 1793, so he had no flashlight, just a candle. And as the flame was extinguished from his candle, with no way to relight it, Philibert was plunged into complete darkness, unable to locate his way out. He wandered his way around, likely until he was too exhausted to continue, and in the cruelest twist of all, he was found just feet away from a staircase that would have led to his exit. The exit is now referred to by the cataphiles as Fifi, named after Philibert. While most of his body had fallen to decomposition by this point, his jacket buttons and keyring were used to identify him. Philibert's tomb lies within the catacombs, right where his body was found, and the tomb is a popular location frequently visited by cataphiles and other explorers. As you could imagine, in a place where so many bodies are laid to rest, and not particularly in the most humane way, as most of the bones were essentially just thrown down into these tunnels, there is a looming presence of spirits and entities within the catacombs. While there are some spirits that may be friendly or non-threatening, there are quite a few hostile and evil entities within the space. Philibert's spirit is said to be one on the good side, assisting or helping people by guiding them out of the passageways, as he was unable to do so himself. In 2004, a group of police officers discovered something very strange within the tunnels. It was not really paranormal, but more so just unbelievable. 3 days following their original discovery, they are back at the site with electricians in tow to see how the power that they discovered was getting down here and where exactly it was run from. When they walk up to the site, they are shocked to see how it's changed from the first time they saw it. It now reads, "Do not try to find us." And everything they discovered was now gone. When the officers originally entered the catacombs 3 days prior to this, Upon making the discovery of this strange sight, they entered through a drain and walked up to a tarp that had a sign reading, Building Site, No Access. Thinking that was odd, and after moving past the tarp into the tunnel, the officers came across a desk with a CCTV camera set up to record the area where they had just entered. And upon entering, there was a recording that went off with the sound of dogs barking, which the police determined was used to be a deterrent to scare people off. Deeper into the tunnel was, bizarrely, a cinema with a full-size screen, projection equipment, and a variety of movies. In the cavern next to this area was a sort of bar and restaurant with everything from liquor to a pressure cooker to tables and chairs. Like I had mentioned earlier, electricity had been run to this area and even went as far to have multiple phone lines ran. When the officers returned to the area 3 days later with those electricians, the lines had been cut and that "do not try to find us" note was left behind. So, like I said, not really ghost weird. It's more so like, why was that elaborate setup done and what were they doing in that area? Was it just fun and harmless, like they were using the area for a shelter? Or was something nefarious going on? And that's why they needed the CCTV camera set up, the phone lines, and the dog barking recording to scare people away. One of the most chilling things about the catacombs, besides the millions of dead buried throughout the tunnels, is that it's known for trying to trick you, to play games with your mind, confuse you, force you to become lost and trapped within the walls forever. There are many reports of people hearing disembodied voices, voices calling out to them, or leading them further into the tunnels, footsteps, or even faint singing, which is referred to as the Phantom Choir. YouTubers Sam and Colby, who have a total of 15.1 million subscribers on their channel, just uploaded a video about a week ago at the time of this recording showing their journey through the catacombs. And I actually just wanted to give them a shout out because they helped me gain some inspiration for this episode. And you should definitely check out the video. It's titled Paris Catacombs, Investigating Real Gate to Hell. I was really amazed at how accurate the depiction in As Above, So Below portrayed the catacombs, because there were several moments throughout Sam and Colby's video where I was like, this is literally exactly like the movie. They did some paranormal investigation using a few different methods while they were down there, and what they found was actually insane and scary, and I probably would have been freaking out and potentially crying if I was there with them. The one thing I will share from the video is that during one of the investigations where they were using the DR60 voice recorder, which I do want to point out is literally just a simple voice recording device. It's nothing fancy and it's actually quite outdated, and they were using it to capture the voice of an entity speaking. During the first round of questions, one person in the group asks, "Was the spirit we were talking to evil?" And I cannot stress enough how clear the response was. The entity very, very clearly responded, "I am evil," which gives me the chills, even just saying that out loud, but even more so when you're watching the video. Very, very scary. And it just goes to show you how prevalent the presence of spirits are down there, and that not all the lost souls down there have good intentions. I would highly, highly recommend checking out their video so you can see those investigations for yourself and also view how many bones are really down there, because they do go into some of the bone rooms and show you how insane it is. And again, their YouTube channel is Sam and Colby. Okay, that is some of the terrifying legends and realities that lie within the catacombs. Definitely one of the most haunted places around, just from the sheer number of dead that were moved there, or people that have died while exploring or becoming accidentally trapped underneath the city. My best advice is, if you ever find yourself in Paris and looking to find your way into the catacombs and see all of this with your own eyes, please, please, please do not go in without a guide. Find somebody who is experienced in bringing people down into the tunnels and make sure you are prepared with lights and the proper gear. The absolute scariest thing you can do would be to enter and never leave. All right, you guys, that is going to conclude our episode here on the catacombs. I absolutely loved this one. It was really fun to do the research for this, and I originally thought to myself, I would never do this. I would never go down there. But after thinking about it a little more, I'm sort of unsure. Maybe if the opportunity presented itself, I couldn't pass it up, but I guess it would depend on how brave I was really feeling at the time. Would you follow a guide through the catacombs? Let me know, and also let me know your thoughts on this episode by leaving a comment either on our YouTube channel, on this episode's Instagram post, or in the reviews for the show. If you want to support this show and help us to reach more people, please give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening on. Make sure to leave us a review and even share the podcast with a friend. Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay safe, and I will chat with you guys next time.